Hello everyone! I am out on the rooftop deck garden today and we are going to be harvesting some flowers, specifically cut and come again flowers. Cut and come again flowers are plants where the more flowers you harvest, the more flowers they'll produce throughout the season. These are great for any gardener, but especially gardeners like us who grow in small spaces. I had a dahlia that I think I gave 1 square foot of space last year that produced hundreds of flowers from one plant. And that's why I love them so much, because I have two 19 by 18 square foot decks up here on the roof. I can produce thousands of flowers throughout the season. There are many flowers that fall under the cut and come again category. I'm not growing all of them, unfortunately, but this is a book I really like. It's called The Encyclopedia of Cut Flowers, and I have in here some bookmarks of the ones that I am actually growing or have grown in the past. But some of my all-time favorite cut and come again flowers are zinnias. That's what I grow the most of by far in my garden. They are one of the most productive. The only issue I have with them is the powdery mildew. I have dahlias is probably my second most popular cut and come again flower. And then I have snapdragons, which this is my first year actually starting them from seed, which I don't know why I haven't been doing this the entire time I've been gardening. And once you see what they look like, you will feel the exact same way. I also have cosmos. I have gomphrena, I have straw flowers, I have a bunch that I'm probably missing, and not all of them are ready to harvest today, but the ones that are, we're going to go around. I'm going to show you how you know when they are ready to harvest, because not all of them display the exact same signs when they're ready to be cut. And then we're going to see how many flowers I can get today. It's still early on in the season, so I don't expect to get a ton today, but we are starting to get to the point where I'm going to be producing hundreds of flowers a week, which is really exciting. So we're going to go ahead and start with what is again the most common flower in my garden, zinnias. This here is the Dream Zinnia. I started these from seed indoors in early April and planted them outside early to mid-May. Some cut and come again flowers will continue to open once you cut them. Other cut and come again flowers will not. So when you cut them, that's where they will stay. So you don't want to cut them too early. And a zinnia is an example of one that does not continue to open after you harvest. So the way to tell if a zinnia is ready is to do a wiggle test. You can do that by grabbing the stem a couple inches below the flower and wiggling it back and forth. When I wiggle it, the stem moves all as one piece. So this zinnia is ready to harvest. Now, if we look at this other exquisite zinnia on a different plant, one, I think you can see that the petals aren't as fully open, but also if I give it a wiggle, grabbing a few inches below, I think you can see how the top of the flower wobbles more than the rest of the stem. So it's not one stiff stem all the way up. So this one I'm going to leave on the plant a little bit longer. We are back at the original zinnia now that is ready to harvest. So we have the flower up here. If we go down, you can see right above the set of leaves, there are two branches that are already starting to form. Now, zinnias have apical dominance, which means that they are currently focused on growing the flower. That's what these plants are meant to do, produce a flower, produce seeds. So the energy of the plant is currently focused on this flower. If I cut this flower, the plant's then going to focus its growth on these two lateral branches, making more flowers once I harvest this one. You can go right here. You can also go further down the stem if you want a longer stem for harvesting your zinnias. I don't care that much about stem length because I'm not a florist, so I'm not making huge bouquets, and honestly, most of the bouquets I make are relatively small, like mini bouquets, so I prefer smaller stems, but I could cut here if I wanted. I could cut here for a longer stem. I'm just going to take it off here because that's the stem length that I need right now. Now what's going to happen is these two stems will each become their own flower. I have a jar of fresh water ready to go. So what we're going to do now is take the leaves off of the zinnia. We don't want leaves in the water because that can produce mold in the water. So we're just going to put that leafless zinnia in there. Moving on to dahlias next. This is the totally tangerine decorative dahlia. I got tubers in the mail, and I think I started them indoors in early April before planting them outside. With dahlias, you want to harvest when almost all of the petals are open and all the petals on the back of the dahlia still look healthy and intact. It doesn't look like they've started to fade. This dahlia on the left is nowhere near almost fully open, so I wouldn't harvest that. I am going to harvest this one, although this is an example of one that I probably waited a little bit too long to harvest, so it just won't last as long in the vase. This one here is slightly less open than that last one I saw you that I probably left on a little bit longer than ideally I would want to. So I'm also going to harvest this one and it'll last a little bit longer in the vase. Now when you're harvesting dahlias, it's going to be very similar to harvesting zinnias. I'm traveling down the stem from the flower to a set of leaves where I see these lateral branches. Again, I can go lower if I want to, but I don't need a long stem length. Also, the longer stem length I harvest, the longer the stem length will be of the lateral flowers that grow. Next up are snapdragons. These are from the Sunrise blend from Johnny Seed. Again, started these from seed around mid-March, planted them out in May. For snapdragons, you want to harvest them when about the bottom third to bottom half of the blooms are open on the spike. This is going to, again, give them a longer vase life than if you were waiting for all of the flowers to open on the spike. And once you cut them and bring them inside, the flowers on the top here will continue to open. Now this is a plant where even though you don't normally need longer stems, I am going to go very far down in order to harvest this flower. Because let's say I harvest up here, I trigger the branching here, I find that the stems are a lot weaker, whereas the further down you go on the plant, the more sturdy the stems will be. So I'm gonna go pretty far down. I'm gonna leave 1, 2, I could cut there if I wanted to. Let's do right here. I'm going to do 3 sets of leaves left on the plant. So you can see how much smaller this one has now become compared to the dahlias or the zinnias. These are examples of some snapdragon flowers I would not harvest yet. This one is close. I'll probably wait for these to open fully and then harvest. This spike here doesn't have any open yet, so I would not harvest that one at this point. Moving on now to Cosmos. This is Fizzy White Cosmos that I started inside from seed 6 weeks before last frost. Now Cosmos, you want to harvest just as the flowers are starting to open. So right when the buds are starting to show some colorful petals, like this one here, because this will continue to open in the vase. Cosmos like this, where the petals are already open, these have a very short vase life, usually like 1 to 2 days. So this is one where you want to harvest when the flowers are much more closed instead of when they are almost fully open. Now, same thing with the other flowers. I will follow down the stem until I see above a leaf node, and you see that this lateral branch is starting to form right here. So I am going to harvest right above that. Here is everything that I just harvested. Aren't these so pretty? I mean, it's been 6 years now that I've been gardening, and I still can't completely believe that I can grow these from seed on my rooftop deck in the city. But aren't these just stunning? And like I said, this is early on in the season. I'm just starting to harvest these flowers. July, August, September, I will have hundreds of flowers that I'm producing a week. So that might lead you to ask, what do you do with all these flowers? Well, I do make bouquets for myself that I keep inside on my nightstand, but the majority of these flowers I do end up giving away. So I do what I call giveaway bouquets. I've been doing it for about 4 years now, where I will collect flowers. I will make little miniature bouquets in jars that are about this size, and I leave them on the sidewalk with a sign that says, "Free flowers, please take some." And I have gotten such a great response from this. I have received thank you notes in return from people that were having hard days, and then this cheered them up, seeing a random bouquet of flowers for them to take home. So I really love flowers for myself, but I also find the same amount of joy, if not maybe a little bit more, from giving them away to others to spread some of the gardening happiness. Now, I actually did just put out 4 bouquets this morning, so these I'm going to keep for myself. Now, on that mention of morning, that is ideally the best time to harvest cut flowers, or later in the evening, basically. Anytime that's not the middle of the afternoon where it's the hottest part of the day, and that can stress the plant out some more. But oftentimes my schedule and the ideal gardening schedule don't align. So I normally harvest whenever it works best for me on a particular day. I've never had any issues even on super hot days when I've harvested in the afternoon. So all I can say is grow cut and come again flowers if you don't already, or you might have some flowers in your garden that you didn't know were cut and come again, and you do want to harvest. You will be amazed at how many flowers you can produce from just one single plant. Now, if you want to save seed, I usually do that later on in the season. I'll leave a couple flowers on the plant to produce those seeds and then save them for next year. But the majority of the flowers I am cutting like I've shown you today. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you are growing cut and come again flowers, some of your favorites down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.